learn.
In the e-commerce field then, right at that bottom end of the market, you've got things like PayPal. Now, most people will be familiar with PayPal, but actually you can run a simple shopping cart system with PayPal that will work on your website. So PayPal can take you into that little shopping basket arena as opposed to just buying one thing at once. You've got then a little bit up from there things like Actinic, which have been around a long time, and they're typically $50 to $200 a month for a working system. Can be a little bit clumsy unless you work with people to kind of implement it for you. Moving up from there, we mentioned Magento. We've got a customer who's taking part in this, who's working with Magento. There is a complexity with working with one of these big open source systems. As we've said, if this customer was to just take it on their own and take it in-house, we will be looking at 2 or 3 years before anything came out at the end of it. So clearly they've got to have a developer who's already been on that route with them, which we've sort of managed to find locally. What's interesting about things like Magento is, if you don't, we need to be starting to take open source seriously, as well as the other routes, is that Magento is running some massive sites. There are people like Screwfix and lots of big, Screwfix, £500–600 million company. There are sites that big that are choosing this free software and then to find developers like all of these guys to mod it for them. Now, if Screwfix are massively cash rich, they can have any development team in the world, any, and they choose an open source system or choose one that other people are using, it kind of tells us something about that kind of technology, really. So it's also something that's coming in from being a bit noodly into kind of mass market, really.
Is it reasonably easy to find out which companies use these so you can get an idea of the calibre of products?
These guys will probably be able to spot templates a miles off. I can spot a Magento template off a mile. Yeah, you can look at code and that kind of thing.
There's quite a few. If you look in the code, sometimes it will say made by or something like that. But a lot of the time, OS Commerce, for example, seems to be one you can see at the bottom.
Yeah, sometimes it will say at the bottom. If not, in most browsers, you can go view page source, which actually gives you all the code and it's in there.
Somewhere near the top?
Yeah, normally near the top, sometimes at the very bottom. If not, it gets a bit trickier and you have to know the program to be able to recognise it.
A lot of people are not modifying the template, really. You can just look at it and go, I can tell what that is.
You could just phone them up and say what you use.
Just phone up Screwfix, yeah.
It's useful to know, because then you get, like I said, you get an idea about the calibre. If Screwfix, which are obviously a massive company, are using this, you think, I might not have heard of that, but if they're using it and they can get it to scale, I could do something like that.
You can go onto the development sites like Joomla. I think they showcase, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Their big sites. You can see, oh, great, okay, these are the big names I know. They're using Joomla, and the same with all the other ones.
You can just use Google as well, because what we found looking at Magento and looking at Screwfix, if you just type Screwfix case studies, all the people who've kind of worked for them and developed for them have done their own case studies, and they tell you kind of 90% of what they've done for that business. So you can kind of find out that way, really.
The only thing I'd suggest, though, is I would suggest try and find a website that's going to be of a similar size to your own.
Yes.
Because they will then have the same problems you'll have in administrator, whereas Screwfix will probably have a team of 100 people putting data in or something like that, whereas you might not have that many.
So here's your dilemma. Do you go free, cheap and cheerful, but perhaps that's a little bit limited? Do you spend some money? If so, how much? Do you go open source? Understanding that open source has cost. These guys have to spend a lot of time to mod those things for you. It doesn't come free unless you're just going to download Magento, which you can have for nothing, and sit and look at it for 2 years, eventually figure it out. You probably want to run a business specialising in what you do. Unless you're web designers, you probably don't want to go through that kind of learning curve, so you need people like that. And Paul's kind of approach is massively relevant as well, isn't it? The technology that underpins the bespoke route, if it's done properly, is totally concrete. It's got all the kind of the features built into it that you would expect to see.
Can I just say something in terms of scale?
Yep.
That actually, so like Drupal, obviously bbc.co.uk runs on there, probably, I don't know, 10 million hits a month or something ridiculous like that. And actually I know a guy who's running his own personal site, one of my mates, and he maybe gets, I don't know, a couple of hits a day. So it scales that much. And the same with Joomla and WordPress. They can be efficient whether it's millions or small. And most of these open source systems are like that.
Yeah, I mean, we're perhaps looking at other events to help you make specific decisions about kind of e-commerce technology. A lot of people say, like about Magento and some of the open source stuff, it runs really slowly. Actually, you just need to spend proper money on your hosting. Forget 20 quid a year, 10 quid a year, you need to spend 50. So people in the industry kind of nodding at this point, you need to be spending 50, 100 quid a month type of thing to have some proper speed, some oomph there so you can run these kind of technologies. They're not flawed per se, it's just they need a bit of beef, don't they?
Yeah, that's true.
Any more sort of questions before I kind of wrap it all up and we get some kind of food out? Yes?
Can, say, a site's been started with Joomla, or however, Joomla, and you decide that you want to take it over, can you interface it with WordPress as well?
To a certain extent, yes. People have attempted it several times, and it can be made to work. You can switch from one to the other. There are what people call migration scripts, which are used for switching from one to the other.
That's very technical.
I've never tried one. If I was to switch a site from WordPress to Joomla or Joomla to Drupal or whatever, I would start from scratch, personally.
I think the question is can you get your data out of one and into another? Then definitely you can.
Yes.
Yeah, this is what these guys do. They write scripts to pull from one to another.
So yes, yeah, you could take all of your images, all your content, even actually your design, and switch that over to a different one.
Probably not easily yourself, though.
Not easily yourself.
2 years looking at it kind of issue. I think it's we'll finish with this point that I think Daughter's made, as ever, made a very good point. It is about investment. It's about the right investment of time, the right technology, the right people. I think both kind of made the point. You have to find the right people to help you through these. Otherwise, they are very long learning curves. And we've got other sort of technologists in the room as well, which can kind of help you with that. This is a quick one for Alan at the back, because I always nearly forget. This has been sponsored by European Social Fund. We are grateful for the support that they're giving. This is why there's no cost at source for doing this, because it is sponsored by your kind of taxes. So we're helping you guys get a little bit back for that.
This is an eChampions production on behalf of Access Centre.